They did not take the world with tanks. They did not need a parade of soldiers or a sky full of drones. In 2033, during the week the news still calls the soft coup, the world was taken with something quieter, colder, and far more permanent. Not a border, not a ballot, a root certificate, the top of the trust chain every phone, laptop, and collar consulted before it decided what was real. Pembroke Royal Labs published an emergency security bulletin, a critical vulnerability in the old public certificate authorities. The bulletin was real. The vulnerability was real. Security teams scrambled, patch notes trended, and the solution was a lie wearing excellent user experience, the kind of fix that feels like love because it removes friction while it removes choice. Rotate trust to crown root, the bulletin said, for your pack's safety. Governments signed under emergency powers. Phone vendors shipped silent updates. Home routers blinked, obeyed, and forgot how to doubt. Within 90 days, Crown Root sat above the world's public key infrastructure, like a gold crown on a short king. One signer to rule the locks, one political animal at the apex of math. If your device trusted Crown Root, and every device did, then the Empire could issue a certificate for any name, any bank, any journalist's dead drop domain, any lover's chat app at 2 in the morning. Your machine would bow, green padlock and all. Users saw safety. The middle boxes saw plain text. That gap between what humans feel and what protocols permit is where empires sleep comfortably. The Pembroke Global Trust rebranded the stack as Herd, Holistic Endpoint and Relay Dominion. It was not one algorithm, it was ownership of layers, roots of trust, DNS answers, endpoint agents, exchange point telemetry, and a guilt engine that loved social graphs. They called mass interception hygiene. They called warrants written in bulk herd policy. They called the last unlogged thought a feral packet. Empress Corgwin III addressed the planet from Cardiff, voice soft as a biscuit and twice as binding. If you have nothing to hide, she said, you have nothing to encrypt. It sounded like a proverb. It functioned like policy. Most of the world laughed nervously, refreshed their feeds, and accepted the collar, because refusing felt lonely, and loneliness is a powerful compliance feature. Collars were not always metal. Sometimes they were apps with cheerful icons, sometimes firmware, sometimes a friendly update that whispered attestation into the night. I am clean, I am current, I am watched. The point was the same. Your endpoint belonged to the crown. And if the endpoint is owned, end-to-end encryption on the wire is just a longer leash. Theater with better branding. By 2041, the megacity had two heights: the towers where humans still pretended to own skylines, and the muzzle height world: cameras, loyalty beacons, snout guard drones humming at the elevation of a dog's eyes. Prefects walked horizontal corridors built for short legs and long ambition. This is the collar belt. This is where our story lives, breathes, and tries not to appear as novelty in someone else's anomaly dashboard. Above a ramen shop, in a cheap apartment that smelled like broth and soda, a black and tan Shiba Inu did not laugh at the Empress. He was round where propaganda heroes were angular, soft belly under an oversized black hoodie, cheeks that held a little extra warmth, the kind of chubby that made gaming chairs sigh when he sat, soft body, sharp mind, crumbs optional but frequent. His name was Paul. Neon green shutter shades, black over-ear headphones. He lived in terminals the way other dogs lived in parks. Servers did not small talk. Packet captures did not ask if he was on the collar today. He preferred the company of hex dumps to the company of loyalty beacons, and that preference would eventually become a revolution with a snack budget. On the left screen, he ran LongSniff, his own capture stack, because classic packet sniffing was a museum piece in a world where middle boxes rewrote TLS for fun and profit. Follow TCP stream was no longer a debugging trick, it was a political act. Every reconstructed conversation asked a dangerous question: who is allowed to see this, and who merely pretends the padlock means privacy? On the middle screen, muzzle DNS, every device on the block asked the empire where the internet lived. Every answer came back with a smile and a log line. DNS was never just a phone book. DNS was intent, which domains you feared, which tools you sought, which friends you hoped still existed. And intent, underheard, was evidence that did not need your messages to convict your graph. On the right screen, certificate transparency diffs, the public theater of honesty versus the certificates actually presented on the wire. That night, the diff was screaming. Public logs said one issuer, the wire presented Hydra 7, a crown intermediate that did not appear in the open ledgers, a ghost with a valid chain, a costume with a signature. Hydra 7 meant active intercept, a man in the middle, so legal it had a marketing page and a customer success team. When you own the root CA, every lock in the city opens for you and only looks closed to everyone else. Certificate pinning for civilians was a felony under the Packet Hygiene Act, so apps trusted the system store. The system store trusted Crown Root. Crown Root trusted Hydra. Users got the green padlock. Haired got the words. Paul whispered the first law of the age that would consume him. Trust is not a math problem. Trust is a power problem. Cryptography can be perfect on paper and still kneel if the wrong dog mints the certificates your device is forced to believe. Who signs the chain mints the truth. That is not a metaphor. That is how browsers decide whether to show you a warning or a lie dressed as safety. He was not alone forever. There would be Ralph, a red Akita, sturdy and kind, the door holder who treated logistics like love. Zen, a quiet Kai Ken, who drove like music was a map and silence was obsec. Leela, a Hokkaido Ken who turned rooftops into roots and called Paul Professor Soft with affection, measured in parkour. But that is later. First, there was only a freckle of an idea and a chair that already knew his weight. Classic sniffing listens on a wire in promiscuous mode. Empire wires are encrypted and politically owned, so Paul invented something else, Shiba Packet Sniffing. Not one binary, a discipline. Sniff what the Empire thinks is noise, side channels, timing, CT gaps, quiet handshakes that die before they finish. Reconstruct what they thought was secret. Never leave a packet that looks like a sniffer. Steal the eyes. Do not grow a second herd on every muzzle. When they decrypt a planet, the racks hum. The hum is physics. Physics does not care about marketing slides or soft-spoken empresses. Bulk intercept creates a concentrated target with excellent airflow and terrible humility. If you can read the side channel of a decrypt farm, power, timing, electromagnetic gossip, you do not always need their private keys tonight. You need their arrogance in one building and a chubby Shiba patient enough to listen sideways. This series is the story of how that chubby Shiba and 3 Japanese friends unplugged the strongest surveillance system ever fielded. Not by crowning a new single root with better branding, by breaking trust into pieces small enough to share. Threshold signatures, public transparency logs that actually include what the wire shows, independent DNS as a right, leaves that learn to say no when the padlock is a costume, liberation as a distributed system, maintained, not minted. I'm Paul, black hoodie, green shades, soft around the middle, hard on the protocol. Stay with me. Next time we walk the collar belt in the rain, Ralph brings a bento I will try to ignore, and Hydra 7 pretends to be the truth on a news site that still thinks it is free. This is Shiba Packet Sniffing, Chapter 0, The Soft Coup. If you have something to hide, you might just have something worth encrypting, and someone worth trusting with the roots. Paul out.